everybody. How's it going? Welcome to Some Guys Talking. I am your host, Brian Holler. I'm along here with my co-host, Aaron Washington. Aaron, how you doing today, sir?
I am doing fantastic, my friend. How are you doing today?
Can't complain. We're sitting here, with the amazing Brady Madden from Evergreen Digital. We're about to have a great conversation. It's a nice day. We're in plant medicine. We could complain, but so can everybody else. So, feeling good. How you doing, Brady?
For sure. I'm doing great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course. Our pleasure. How are you doing today? How's things going?
Good, man. I'm feeling the same as you. It's a sunny day out here in Michigan. It's pretty cold still, but just the fact that the sun's out's a great thing. And like you said, man, we're pushing this industry forward and working in plant medicine. So we got no complaints.
Indeed. So, well, thank you for being on the Beard Bros Media Network. We're really excited about all the progress we're making, and we're happy to, kind of speak with you today about your journey and, and what you've been up to and what you do. Aaron, any thoughts right off top before we get diving into Brady's, background and what he's doing?
Thoughts on what? I have a lot of thoughts.
You generally do. Yes. Oh, I don't know. Thoughts on sort of the status of, things in the space or anything of that nature that kind of occurs to you. It's very interesting. Brady does SEO. So the amount of topics we could segue off into or, basically go down rabbit holes of could be very significant in this episode. So we want to, so is anything occurring to you as somebody who is going to be pretty well versed on tons of topics that relate to us before we really dig into how we got to that place?
What am I thinking? I don't know. I'm literally just, I don't know. There's just there's so much stuff going on in the world. It's kind of hard to make myself focus on any one direction. I'm going to hand it back over to you because I've got a lot on my brain.
Well, let's dig in then. So Brady, obviously, what do you tell for everybody who doesn't know? You tell everybody sort of what you currently do, just as a snapshot, what you do in the space, and then we'll sort of dig into how you got there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Brady. I'm with Evergreen Digital. I started it in 2020. Got into the space, and we can kind of talk about that a little bit, but got into the cannabis space around 2017 and really just saw a big opportunity for operators to be able to spend more time working on search engine optimization and really just kind of go all in on those efforts. Because at the time there wasn't a lot of, various media networks like you guys or other platforms that people could advertise on. And so SEO was really the one big kind of channel that a lot of cannabis companies could go in on. And I'd spent a number of years doing that. And so I do search engine optimization for all types of cannabis operators, retail, B2B. I mean, you name it. I've worked across the industry, beverages, definitely worked across the space in a lot of different capacities, but that's either supporting operators and executing a lot of those SEO type of tasks, or that's maybe more supporting them in a consulting type of role and helping coach up somebody internally or work with them with their internal team.
Yep. That makes sense. And, for those who might not be aware, SEO stands for search engine optimization, right? So any search engine, especially big Google, bottom line is, you're going to look for people, topics, and companies are incentivized to want to be on the top of the line when they search for you, right? That is one of the main ways to find people or to find business or to find services. People, either individuals or other businesses, looking for business partners, etc., opportunities. And so content really, connects everybody that way, or basically helps you rank. And there's all sorts of different types of content, which Brady and his team will help with, right? And so that's basically what you do. That's very interesting because I think there's a lot of, I don't think people are aware of why it's important and what it is, especially a lot of operators and people who are decision makers in the space. So I look forward to kind of digging into that with you, with my marketing and background chops. It's very interesting to sort of dig into that. But let's focus on you, of course. Go ahead.
Would it be for the layperson saying that it helps you get found?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great way. I think that the thing that I love about SEO is the fact that it's not typically disruptive. Like when you look at a lot of other marketing channels like advertising or, even social media or like doing like a local display or something like that, typically you're trying to target a person or you're trying to create a message and put it in front of people when they're doing something else. And so they might be here or there, they might be driving down the road and it's a billboard, they might be, clicking through something, or maybe they're in an email and then it's a message that gets in front of them or something like that. But typically you're trying to disrupt what they're doing and say, hey, check this out.
Right.
Whereas with SEO, it's more seamless with what they're doing because they're already looking for a dispensary. They're already looking for, they're Googling whatever your product or service is or dispensary near me. And so you're just kind of saying like, oh, you're looking for a dispensary near you. Sweet. I got that. Come check it out. So you're more.
Here you go. Right.
Exactly.
That's a great way to look at it. I wouldn't say passive, just more. It's going to
like
be
capturing.
being in front. You're not wrong. Like advertising is meant to be. I'm looking at this. Oh wait, what's that? Right, and I'm distracted by it. Right, appropriate. Right. So that's right. That's sort of a marketing 101 tactic. Right. Like that's
So you're helping to guide the journey.
Right.
So you're guiding the journey. You're helping and being nice about it instead of being rude like me and advertising and throwing it in people's faces.
Or extra rude.
Like
us.
Here,
We're going to further the metaphor. We're like the rudest out of everyone.
Yeah. These guys, like these people are like, oh, I need a cannabis automation equipment, or they need something. It's just like, sweet, we got that. Let me show up for it. So you're more like capturing the traffic and pulling them to you than you are driving traffic to you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, right. And companies like companies like Beard Bros make good friends with companies like Evergreen because, we have a really well-traveled media platform by which folks really get a lot of information from. It continues to grow. There's a lot of content on our site that is very conducive to business and growth, not just from what you're reading, but from what you're seeing and links and language. People who are like different types of businesses that are promoted. When people search, we want to be high too when anybody searches topics that we talk about.
Right.
And so if we do that, then Brady and his team are incentivized to look at other outlets that have larger followings or that put out lots of content to basically partner essentially, or to try to figure out ways to work together to basically give his clients, more opportunity to be seen. Right. And so that's basically just a strategy, not just with media companies, with a lot of different companies that put out, lots of content. Again, this goes back to like partnerships and strategic arrangements and things like that, which are something I love talking about. I think we'll probably get into that a little later too. But again, so this is like basically the context of what Brady does now. But I'm curious to know how Brady got here. Right? You live in Michigan. Did you grow up in Michigan?
I did. Yep.
Okay. So Michigan guy, right?
Easy.
You're Wolverines in the whole nine.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Go blue, baby.
All right, fair enough. I'm from Washington, so we won't get into the national championship a couple years ago. So let us move along. Good job, Wolverines. All right. No, that's cool though. Did you go there?
I didn't. No. I'm what they call a Walmart Wolverine.
Understood. No worries. That's funny. Where did you grow? Or where did you go to school?
I went to Western Michigan, similar, like larger type of school, just not as large as that in a different part of the state. But yeah.
Yep. Very cool. Were you already into, like tech and marketing and stuff by the time you entered? Or like when did the bug of that kind of sort of take place for you? Is it down the line? Like what did you go to college for originally?
Yeah. Good question. I actually started out in something totally different in aviation. So I was in like a totally different realm, but that was also around, like 9/11 and all that stuff happened. And there was like some airline industry crashes. And so sometimes I might go back and get my license, but at that point I was, I was looking into some other things. I actually worked with a health and wellness and nutrition company while I was in college. And then I went into that full time and actually spent a number of years working with like vitamin supplements, nutrition and things. I started on the sales end of that and then kind of transitioned into marketing from sales. And one of the things that I really learned at that time was really just the power of the digital space. like I got to a point where I was selling more product online than when I was selling like in an office or in, a traditional setting like that. And so I learned really kind of the value of that. Unfortunately, the company that I was with didn't want to go into that, like thought digital was a bad thing, thought that social media wasn't the way to go or anything, which is obviously crazy looking back on that nowadays.
Well, yeah, they like sold product online and they're like, nah.
Yeah.
Like let's not lean into digital. That doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Like again, I can't tell you how many stupid conversations I've had over the years that just become dumber as I can analyze them moving forward.
As you look back, they just sound that much worse.
Yeah. Hey man, we work for who we work with, we move along, right? So
for sure. Yeah. So I've always had a background really in just like health and wellness in general. I've had some of my own personal health struggles and things like that with inflammation and colitis and other, various similar things. Sure. And cannabis has been one of those tools I found it as part of a toolbox with supplements and exercise and good eating and of course plenty of other things. Yeah. But that was really kind of one of the things that drew me to cannabis. I spent a number of years after I kind of like discovered the power of social media and just, SEO and just all the different digital channels and how you could market online. So I spent a number of years at some different agencies, Advanced Digital, MLive here in Michigan. And those guys have a huge backing with like Vogue and Reddit, Wired magazine, like a whole, slew of companies where you can essentially use their audience targeting to create digital strategies. And so that's really where I kind of cut my teeth on just creating digital strategies and understanding how to, get information from a company, learn what they're currently doing, and then be able to build a strategy and then kind of measure and optimize that strategy once you get it going. And so I spent a number of years doing that before I got into the cannabis space right around like 2017 with on the hemp side of things with a CBD e-commerce store.
Well, that makes a lot of sense for what you do, of course, and I'd imagine that's been a pretty nice lane for you to continue to grow into as time's gone on. Was it harder I'm kind of curious about, because for me, I mean, I guess I should get into this because I'm going to skip ahead and I know things. But anyways, my point is like, so you came to it in an interesting way because nutraceuticals and wellness and, and again, this is what we're all growing into anyways. You just came from the like biotech, nutraceutical lane, and learned more about probably, and I'm guessing, learned more about sort of the greater context, right? At least when I spent time with biotech companies and nutraceutical people that do that and develop products in those lanes, I always just was so sort of, like, oh, this is where we're going, and this is what we'll be, and there's a lot of like a learning that you do because you are able to see how similar products are developed without the hindrances. And then you see when it's all cattywampus and like cannabis and even hemp a little bit, but and it's like what, but ultimately you also got a lot of, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you got a lot of sort of, you were able to sort of look at that, put it into yourself, go, oh, this is interesting. Here's my lane. Now let me start creating things for your clients, or opportunities to basically, campaign, draw attention, do, an approach that will help drive sales, right? My question to you is, that makes a lot of sense, and it's really it's a lot more straightforward to do when you can sell online. But how have you had to develop to assist cannabis companies in that fashion?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think part of it came from, the agency and the strategies that I had built before. And I had even had my own websites and, be able to build those things up. But really, it's a lot of just trial and error of just essentially, whether it's with my own websites or with other clients' websites and creating those strategies and essentially putting things in motion and then just watching the results and like watching what happens. So, okay, we added this page, we added these terms to this page, or we did whatever action it was that we did. What did we see afterwards? And like what drove the biggest results? And so I think that was really one of the best things for me is just between my own websites and between client websites, putting plans and putting things in motion and then saying like, oh man, this didn't work like we thought it would, but now I understand why, because of X, Y, or Z. So we need to tweak this or tweak that. And the hemp company that I worked for, I was their marketing director for about 3 years. And so I really saw directly of like, okay, where is the site at right now? Okay, I need to go in and update these blogs and these pages and add this and that to them. And then now that I've done that, I've seen it grow. Like I know in my first 6 months in that business, they were doing about their biggest website. They actually had 6 different e-commerce stores, a B2B store, and like a couple other properties. So there's a lot of stuff that I was working on.
Right.
But their biggest CBD e-commerce store, they were doing about $35K a month when I first started. And in my first 6 months, just from updating content, focusing on like the main portions of the site and putting the good SEO fundamentals I know in place, we took them in 6 months to about 106,000 per month. At that point. And so, you know, there's not always going to be rapid growth like that, but that was something that I saw at the time. And it was also because it was pre-CBD becoming this massive thing that was just—
That's a great timing, right? To have that skill set to apply it to somebody who'd already pumped out a ton of content, right? That's basically like dream scenario for you at the time.
For sure. At the time, it was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I think to kind of answer your question though, is that what I'm more saying is that I've just done this over and over and over again. You know, like you look at like a musician or you know, anybody that's just amazing at what they do. It's like they've typically done it just repeatedly over and over and over. And so it's me really just kind of taking the stuff that I know that works, having a strategy, but then adjusting that strategy for each client or each different business type, or, you know, those sorts of things. And then just applying it just dozens and hundreds, and even, I don't know if I'm at 1,000s point yet, but I know hundreds of times.
You might be, it's a lot, especially the smaller things you've done. But like ultimately, yes, I get it. You've done it so long now that you understand sort of a baseline strategy that you could start implementing probably pretty quickly with anybody that you would work with at this point, you know? Yep. And then of course, the other thing is people have to be patient. It's a strategy. It must take time. And that's interesting because that gets into, I think, like some of the hindrances in working with cannabis companies, right? A lot of either not knowing, a lot of misunderstood expectations, or like no patience, right? How do you navigate that stuff? Obviously, you've been able to be successful because you've been able to do what you do for a long time. Those have to be hindrances you've run into.
Certainly. Yeah. That's, I'm actually working on some different things for the industry right now. I don't know if I should say it or not, but I've been working on creating a course for operators to be able to help with this sort of thing. But ultimately, I think that there's just not a lot of people who have deep SEO experience that are also working for cannabis companies.
Right.
And it typically makes sense. You know, it's like a lot of times you're not hiring that type of a person into a cannabis organization. You know, usually you're contracting it out, or maybe you've got kind of like an all-in-one Swiss Army knife who's a marketer who's kind of doing a lot of things. If you're a smaller mom and pop shop, certainly when you get up to the MSO level, that's where you can, you know, be able to acquire those type of employees or contractors or whatever it is. But that is something that I've seen really just broadly speaking across the industry, is that there's people that maybe understand different parts of the marketing aspect of advertising, or maybe they're more of a marketing generalists, but there's not a lot of people who have gone like super deep on one thing, or like, especially in the search engine optimization type of a space. That, you know, they're in sometimes because of that, it makes it not as lucrative at times. You know, it's like, I still think that there's plenty of opportunities, but sometimes I've done good work for operators and they don't know that it's good work because until they like left me and tried to do something overseas or try to offboard it to somebody who's way cheaper, we'll just call it, and then have had to come back and essentially say, oh man, like we didn't understand that, you know, not a lot of people understand this space outside of, you know, certain things. So yeah, I've definitely run through challenges like that, but I think one of the biggest things is really just setting expectations, you know, making sure that like whenever I'm working with clients, like, hey, you can expect this to happen, you can expect that to happen, or hey, you know, we've been through this before. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, or, you know, sometimes there's lower hanging fruit of clients that are like in a really great place, and it's going to take deeper dives and deeper level tactics or strategies to be able to get them to kind of that next level. So it really just kind of depends on where they're at and where they're starting. But I think communication and just setting expectations up front are really some of the most important things to be able to kind of help support the, you know, challenges or just questions that they might have as you get going.
That's a good one. You're making me very, like, again, decision makers and operators out there. I'm going to speak for Brady because he's not going to say this to you because he's a nice guy. Stop outsourcing this type of work to people who don't work in the damn industry or who don't understand what's going on here. The two dumbest things I see people do are either outsourced cheaply to someplace, you know, even in the States, but somewhere where somebody's doing this for very cheap work, and they don't really understand what they're doing, and they just sort of throw out stuff and do that. Or they go too hard the other way, and they go, well, hey, here's a fancy Dan SEO agency that's worked with all the biggest companies and all the land, so let me go ahead and throw, you know, massive amounts of money at them. They don't have any industry experience. So you're going to end up coaching them and teaching them to do what you're paying them to do. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can you speak to that a little bit? Because I got to think you've seen both of those extremes far too often than you'd like to see.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, certainly on the lesser expensive route, you know, typically if you're going kind of the cheaper route, we'll say, typically what you find on that side of things is that people know SEO and they might be super smart at SEO and what they do, but they don't understand how it applies to this space. So they don't understand how you can have two menus on your website and one of them's for medical and one of them's for recreational. Right. They don't understand how maybe some of the SEO tools that they might use for all of their other clients and work great, but they won't work for you because your website is an iframe website. So meaning you're not using like a native e-commerce menu. And so putting that website into your SEO tool is going to throw hundreds and even potentially thousands of errors, but you're not going to be able to fix any of them. And so they're going to spend a lot of time trying to fix things or trying to do various things or call out various problems to you that aren't actually problems, because there's nothing that the only thing you could do is actually change your entire menu. And so a lot of times what you find on the cheaper end of things is that people who know SEO and they know what they're doing with that perspective, but they don't know it for this industry. And so they'll wind up spending a lot of wasted time trying to fix things or trying to do things that are never going to get fixed anyways.
Yeah. And then they create problems to get you to pay more for the problem to be fixed. And then you're
exactly
down that hole and you didn't even need to do that.
Exactly. Very common.
Money and
very common. Yeah. I had one website, one of the first dispensary operators that I worked with, they had, 3-4 locations. And when I found them, I actually had to get them. They had been hacked basically twice. Like I got the hack fix once, they did it again, and then they got hacked again. And so they were ranking for thousands of keywords that had nothing to do with cannabis. Like they were ranking for like water bottles and just like other sorts of like lamps, like inanimate objects that you would never want to rank for. So
that's interesting.
Crazy, but yeah, it's like you've got that. And then on the other end, you've got the big agency that's trying to charge you, I don't even know how much people are charging these days, but I've seen some astronomical fees that are getting charged for just like, everything under the sun, essentially. Yeah. But then a lot of them just aren't delivered on very well. They aren't efficient, or the same kind of thing that you can run into with these other contractors, with these smaller ones. With the bigger ones is the same thing where, hey, we've worked for this Fortune 500 company, that Fortune 500 company. So they're used to an enterprise level of SEO. And the same thing, like they'll maybe dive into things that aren't necessarily going to be fixable, or they'll try to target keywords that maybe don't align with your brand. One of the biggest things I come up across when you're, using cannabis, or when you're optimizing cannabis sites, is you've got cannabis, you've got marijuana, you've got weed, you've got all these different terms. Yeah. And then maybe your brand doesn't want to use weed. Maybe you don't want to use the term marijuana on your website, but they're going to see that and go, oh, but it's a good keyword, so we need to have it here. We need to have it there. And then all of a sudden your brand isn't your brand anymore. Nope. And so there's, lots of various things like that. And sometimes it's just terrible management of the site, and they're a big agency, so they want to charge you a massive fee, and, good for them if that's what they want to do. But I don't think that it's always necessary to do that in a lot of cases. So yeah, I've seen a lot.
Yeah. Well, we all have, it's,
I want to connect both of your points and see if I could put an exclamation point on it, because what you were saying, and Brady, when you were speaking, you were talking about just doing it over and over again. What popped into my head is, the saying, you do anything for 10,000 hours, you become a master at it. Like you learn, and you can anticipate the problems, and you have experience with the problems. And that's why, and that's what Brian says, instead of, basically you need to hire companies, you need to hire the right person for the job, and then you will get the results that you're looking for. If you're not hiring the right person, then either, like Brian said, you're teaching this person what to do, and that's why you're hiring them. So basically, yes, you need to hire the right person for the job. So yes, that's the point.
True. Yes. And ultimately it's also about like there's that alignment, right? So you have to, again, ROI is a thing. So if people aren't talking to you about, like, if your service provider is not talking to you right away about, here's how we're going to prove that it makes sense for us to do these things that we're agreeing to do, and here's the results that we're going to look for and agree to, and as long as we're well within range or exceed it, we're going to be happy and we're going to continue to go forward, or we're going to at least adjust and know what we found and adjust appropriately and continue to move that in that direction. To your point, Brady, setting expectations, but also coming with a professional approach, right? We're going to do a scope of work. We're going to talk. We're going to have regular meetings. We're going to touch base. Here, in your case, here's my regular reporting. Here's my right. You need to again, even if you don't use us, me, Aaron, Brady for anything, ever, you don't have to, but you should expect that.
Yeah,
from anybody that you're working with.
Yeah, to kind of continue on that, I think the KPIs, we talked about communication and setting expectation, but I think also just KPIs, what are you looking for? I like to have that conversation with people to say, hey, listen, when we get things started, these are the things that we're going to be expecting. Given where you're at right now, here's where your baseline is. Here's about how much traffic you're getting right now from branded and non-branded. Here's where I think we can gain some ground on some competitors, and then here's some areas that are going to be tougher, that are going to take a little bit longer. And being able to speak to those as what tactics you're going to take to address them, but then also what do you expect? Do you expect to see clicks increase? Do you expect to see revenue increase? Do you expect what sort of expectations you have? And it's not always as easy. I think that's the tough thing about SEO sometimes, is that it's kind of a little bit of mad scientist and then a little bit of actual the other end of things.
Other channels are a little more straightforward, right? Okay, you're going to do programmatic. So here's some impressions. Here's your budget. We're going to drive either a combination of, awareness and sales that should, that should mess with this, or hopefully exceed it theoretically. And then you're going to continue to have that budget, right? It is straightforward in that manner, right? That's a good point, The downside, I suppose, of SEO being sort of more passive and malleable to a lot of things is that, right? It's not.
Yeah, just the fact that it takes longer. Google themselves says that if you make a change or an application to a website today, it can take up to 4 or more months to even see any sort of the full results from it. So you might make a change today, and there might be some short-term effects, but the bigger effects are typically felt long-term.
That's so true. And I can only imagine that length of time will just continue to grow.
What I like is
more content, right? More, more things to search, longer time.
Yeah, I like that it compounds, because I look at it, and Google can certainly change their algorithms and things can change, but what I like is that, let's say we do 5 new articles or 5 new pages that are targeted on a certain subject or something. If we create those, well, now we have those going forward. And so the next new 5 are compounding on top of the first 5. And so it's the work that we put in over a 6-month period, let's say in 2025, that work is still going to be in place in 2026. So it's
if you do it well, the stuff you did in, 2017 is bearing lots of fruit still, this very second, this day. And that's certainly what we found. That's, the greatest benefit, one of the greatest benefits is how diligent Bill and Jeff were about just continuing to post articles and continue to put out content that was informative, even when it's just them sort of just throwing up stuff on the website, 3-5 times a week or whatever, and promoting it on social and stuff like that.
Yep.
Right.
It continues to live out there. Yeah,
exactly.
That's why so I call my business Evergreen, but it's that's typically what I'm trying to do. It's if you look at an evergreen forest just basically starts out with a small couple of seeds that just grow. And then eventually those seeds become trees. Those trees produce more seeds. And then over a period of time, it just continues to grow on its own. And that's typically what I'm trying to help these businesses do. It's you want to grow a forest over time on your website. Versus, if you compare that to kind of advertising, it's advertising is you're there until you stop paying. So the day you stop paying, you're not there anymore. And don't get me wrong, there's still certainly a place for that. I always kind of compare it to when you need to re-up on your cannabis. It's what do you do? If you need it right now, then you go to a dispensary and you buy some cannabis, but you can only buy, and it's like, you can only do that on like a one-to-one basis. That's kind of like ads, it's like, you want some ads, you buy those ads right now. You want some more ads, you have to go purchase more ads. But if you look at, SEO and content and just like stuff you're putting out there is more of like, yeah, you can't get it today. Like if I were to like plant a seed in the ground today, I'm not going to get that cannabis that I want today. I'd have to go to the dispensary for that. But if I plant a seed today or multiple seeds today, that can just be a huge room full of cannabis down the road. Where it's like, I don't even need to go to the store anymore.
That's right. And ultimately you still you need both of those channels happening.
Exactly.
And others if you want to extend.
You want some now and some for later,
That's right. You need some now, you need some later, you want different types, right? You want to attract different types of people who might be interested in different, ways to get there, right? We can, again, Evergreen, I really like the fact that you called your company that because as I think a lot of people know, it's also a business term that basically means, that it's either a profitable, sustainable, long-lasting either company or process that's very sort of, forward-thinking, that will last a long time, that has multiple facets and uses. Or if you apply that term to a company, it's sustainable. It will grow. It's very stable. It continues to grow even despite ups and downs that are inevitable. It is strong, right? Like those are characteristics of those kind of businesses are, consistent, and people persevere. They're people first, right? All the things that a lot of people dismiss as corny or, as whatever. Those folks lose, and meanwhile the people who are doing what we're talking about here win. Mm-hmm. So you can either act like it's corny or try to justify your predatory tactics or your ignorance or lack of business acumen, but what you should be trying to develop are evergreen processes and evergreen businesses. Yes.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. It's like put something in motion that you're going to just do a little bit of every day, and then just do a little bit of it every day, and it's like, that's ultimately what's going to build up over time. Yep. So I compare it to working out, it's like you go to the gym today and you hit a really hard workout, but then you don't go for another week. And then you go again and you hit another hard day for 2 or 3 days in a row. And then you don't go again for another week. It's like that stop and start mentality isn't what works. It's the just consistent application, just boom, boom, just a little bit every day. And it's like every day it just gets a little bit better. And then it just continues to grow.
That's right. And again, to further the metaphor, it's not as if there isn't magic pills or there isn't the sort of shock value doesn't have a right, or like there isn't a way to get attention that way. There is, but you want it to kind of further your metaphor. You want to make sure that you're doing all of those things. Right?
Yeah.
That's your consistency will allow you to take those bigger swings more efficiently. Right.
Exactly. That's a good point, because SEO, while it touches typically all of the other channels, at the same time, it's just one channel,
right?
So it's like email is still a hugely important channel. Loyalty program, hugely important. Like doing some advertising. I mean, just building a brand.
Right.
Having a brand alone, I think, is what a lot of operators sleep on. Is they think that they just need the rankings, and it's like, you don't just need the rankings, you also need to have a brand. Like people need to be seeking you out, and that actually will help your rankings. Google and other search engines, they like to rank brands. So the stronger of a brand profile you typically have, and more people searching, just Googling your name on a monthly basis, the better typically you'll perform in organic search results. And I've seen that in a lot of occasions where some operators, all they focus on is SEO, and they think it's going to save everything. But then the other ones sometimes that have a better brand can even outperform them because of the fact that more people are looking for them and interacting with their Google business profiles and all those type of things. So,
it also goes the other way.
That's why, as a photographer, I'm saying brand, like it goes beyond a logo and colors. You need a strong story. People need to have a reason to want to pick up your products. Like you need to develop your story. It's so important. And people think it's just colors and a logo and swag. It's not. It's
you get lots of B2B people
that your brand invokes. Every brand out there has a feeling that it invokes. Any company that you name, think about a brand that you like, and you think about it, and something pops into your head. You think of an emotion. You think of something that you connect with them. It goes beyond their color and their, their logo.
It baffles me how many pretty well-to-do folks that have gotten there, in a great way, don't see the purpose of doing that because they either a lot of times got there because of who they knew and they, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we just have one really popular, stronghold brand ambassador type that basically has millions of followers. We don't need anything else. Yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You will plateau. I don't give a crap who you are. You will. And at a point, like, yes, you can get a lot of groundswell. You think you're the only one that does that? You think you're the only person who has that sort of stroke? You better start investing in those seeds that you're talking about. If you've got it like that, good for you. You got to be a multi-million-dollar company because of who you knew and what you did and your licensing, and you basically were able to get to a certain place. I'm telling you, you will plateau.
Yeah,
you will.
Yeah.
Unless you start
I see that,
and basically you should be so aware that, like, even if you had 50 million followers yourself, you were able to fuel multiple businesses because you have such a command of the audience, and you can just ride your popularity into scaling businesses effectively, right? That still wouldn't work.
Yeah. I mean, you see it now with a lot of the celebrities. I mean, how many cannabis celebrity brands have done well? It's like
literally
not really any. Yeah. What I was going to say is that to add on that point is that I think that's one trap that I see a lot of new operators fall into is they think that, oh, well, we just need a dispensary, and if we just open it up, people will come to buy.
Or a manufacturer. We're well funded. We're vertically integrated. We've got a couple of like legacy folks, some influencers, that are part of this team. We're good. Yeah. We don't need sales or marketing. We don't need, this. And then they just fail.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then they have the 7 other shops that open up around town. And
if people knew how some of the sausage was really made at some of their favorite brands and businesses, they would be shocked. And I'm telling you right now, some of these, like, again, we've been in the game 8 years, 7 years, more for some people. How many big companies have we seen gone? Many, a lot, and you're going to see more. And it's because of what I think a big key cog in what it is what you're exactly talking about today. Is not planting seeds because you're either, oh, we got enough funding and enough stroke and we know everybody we need to know. I'm telling you, you don't. And I'm telling you, there's people with more money than you and more stroke than you that don't give a shit. And you need to be careful and cognizant of them.
I think the thing, well, and it goes, Brian, you and I have had this conversation before. It's like, in the reality, I mean, I know people talk about authenticity and being, genuine, and they think it's a buzzword or whatever, but it's true. If it's not built on something foundational and real, it's smoke and mirrors. And smoke and mirrors will work for a while and it could go really far. But if it's not based on something genuine, it will not work in the long run. It'll work for a while. And that's why a lot of brands miss. You need to ask yourself, what is my story? And why should people care? Because your brand does not mean as much to them as it does to you. That's and it stands out to you because it's your brand. But to them, it's just one of a million. And that's the thing. Like, people just need to realize it needs to be anything. And that's why I love Evergreen. Anything built on a foundation of sustainability and it's genuine and there's something there, that works. If there's nothing there, ultimately people are it's going to be exposed that it's just smoke and mirrors. So I love it. I just had to add that it's it needs
point,
to be
on top.
No, that's great.
Well, again, people don't. You have a brand. Like, you need to, like, basically grow it. That's just how it goes. I don't care what you sell. Well, I don't care if you're just B2B. I don't care if you're B2C. And honestly, your ethos, your value prop, it doesn't have to be noble. It doesn't. Everybody just has to agree on it. This is what we do. This is who we are, right? It don't have to be noble. It doesn't have to be like some altruistic, like, we're going to help the world shit. It could literally just be, we're going to be the most fire recreational brand in the history of fucking cannabis. And everything we do is in basically in tow for that. We aim for this, right? We want to be the most fire, culture-based rec brand ever. And we want to be edgy and all that good stuff. Do it. But stay there.
Stay in that lane. That's usually one of the biggest conversations that I'm having when I'm kicking off with like a new client or working with a new client or something, is I'm always just asking them, like, where's your guys' focus? You know, it's
Yeah.
just like, I know you're in this city and that city. Okay. But like, tell me what you do in the city, you know, like what is some things that you're doing to support the city and, you know, those sorts of things. And then also like deeper than that is just like, who's your target audience? You know, like who are you trying to get in front of? I get that cannabis can be bought by anybody, and I get that it can be used for a multitude of reasons and et cetera, but like, what are you guys doing in that? You know, like, again, it doesn't have to be helping people. It can just be, you just are there to get people high at a good value. I mean,
what's your part? Tell me your part. And
what's your lane? You know?
Yeah, tell me what your lane is. You know, it's like, it's the same thing with SEO. Like when I look at SEO, there's lots of SEO companies. I've seen SEO companies that are just super general that work across the board. And usually I don't see them perform as well than somebody who says I'm a cannabis SEO company like I've done, or I'm a legal lawyer SEO company.
Exactly right.
Like I'm in a certain industry, you know, it's like that like niching down, I think can be a really beneficial for a number of different reasons, but it's really just like, it gives you that voice, you know, because it's like, now you've got a voice, like you're working in the, whatever your industry is, you've got a voice that you can speak to that relates to the people that you're trying to pull in.
Yes. Also, you don't have to hire that or manufacture it, or you don't have to if I work with Brady, I don't have to worry about whether Brady understands cannabis hemp companies or how the greater contexts work or current trends or any of that. I don't have to worry about that when I work with him. Wow. What a blessing that is. You mean I can just feed him strategy and our content and work with him to map out some pillars and drill into them, and he'll just go for it. And all I have to do is approve and basically work strategically with him. Oh my God, please sign me up. Right. Yeah. Anybody not doing it at that level, you should really reconsider working.
Brian, so you're saying using a professional who knows how to do what they do is a good idea? Is that what you're saying? Not trying to find an alternate route or a cheaper route, or
trying to give it to AI.
That just the right person. Say that again. Is that what you were saying? That hiring someone who knows how to do their job is a good idea. That's pretty good.
And also have some patience.
I'm just being an ass.
No, I mean, we have been around the block enough to know why I'm talking like this. And I'm telling you, all you operators out there, of which I have been one before, and I'm telling you, patience. On top of that, you don't need 27 vendors. So stop getting into those traps.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know who to trust. I don't know where my money's going. Then what are you doing? Get a fucking accountant and fucking get your shit together. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, these fucking people act like they're victims. Like, what are you talking about? You own the company.
Yeah, I agreed for sure on a lot of cases. I do feel for the operators who've been burned, though. You know, like I'll definitely give them that, because there are some people who,
there's a lot of
misinformation, even in marketing in general.
It's a big part of the reason this exists, of course.
Yeah, there definitely is some people that I've seen. I'm just like, man, like I see what they were going for, but I also see how they burned you. And so it's tough when you are an operator and you yourself don't know a lot about it, and so you're trying to hire somebody else, and then
that side of the coin is they're human beings too.
The sun
you get worked over. You're going to be a little hesitant the next time. That's just how it is.
Yeah, for sure. But I think really for the operators to know is that it just comes down to you asking good questions. Ask them what they know about the industry, ask them about their process, ask them how they plan to measure success. You know, it's like, get into some of those kind of things, because you can talk to somebody, you can talk a big game, and you know, sometimes they won't deliver at the end of the day. But if you talk to somebody, at least kind of has a general direction, knows what they're doing, and then delivers on top of it, that's when you know you've got a good one. And so it can be difficult to really kind of get into those sort of things, but just keep asking the questions, and just, you know, if you got a good feeling about it, then give them a shot, but just try to minimize your losses as much as you can at first, until you kind of really
everything's a bit of a risk. You know, so you
don't know what you don't know until you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, every step towards
we've all been burned, right? We've all been burned in many situations before, whether it's this or whether it's other 100%, stuff. Sometimes you need to get burned in order to get it. So
that's another thing that definitely happens too. You know, like, is it failure or is it learning? Right? You're learning. You know, so don't call it failure unless the whole thing blew up in your face and it did actually fail. But even then, you still might say it was learning, right? There you should, you know, at a point. So anyhow, Brady, man, this is a great conversation. We could go on forever to be honest about just all the ins and outs of like how to, I knew that we would end up getting into some, other territory that sort of, because SEO is such a, in my opinion, like a strategy for it is such a foundational piece that you need for not just your own content strategy, but your growth strategy, like your overall growth as a company. I don't care who you are. You need to implement some sort of level of an SEO strategy, right? Sure. Basically, so, and I would implore you to consider Brady. Because Brady and Evergreen don't work just in Michigan, right? You can work with anybody all across the country, right?
Yeah, we work all over, worked in many different areas, many different business types. Certainly able to adjust strategies, whether somebody's a B2B company, retail operator or whatever it is. But yeah, absolutely. Very well versed across that. I would say too, just to kind of give, just some high level notes for all operators out there, especially if you're on the retail side of things. I think the biggest things that I would say with SEO is number one, make sure your Google business profile is set up. Get that thing set up, get it optimized, and then respond to your customers. When you start getting reviews and things like that, respond to those people, publish photos, do events and things like that, and then publish photos to those things. That's going to matter the most. You don't want to have if you're a retail operator, your focus is local. So post about terpenes or cannabinoids, while they might be helpful and they're good to educate people, you want to keep your focus local. So the Google business profile will help with that, but then just also, focus on your menu. There's iframe menus and then there's native e-commerce menus. Typically the native menus are going to be better because they're actually putting your full menu on your website. If you're using an iframe menu, that means it's off on somebody else's website. And so that's a huge recommendation I always make is to, double down and focus on that. And then by focusing on that, I'd actually take money away from things like the marketplaces. So typically like a Leafly or a Weed Maps or something like that, those can be good to start, but focusing on your own SEO and your own funnel of just being able to capture people from the web, bring them in and make purchases, get their email, start them in a loyalty program. Like your ability to do that is going to determine a lot of your success. And if you're using those marketplaces, a lot of times you're outsourcing your sales and your customers to those people because then they're going to start marketing to them. And then you're going to become reliant on those marketplaces. And so get your Google business profile, focus local, set up your location pages and things like that. And I think that's going to be a good start. You own your website, so make sure you get that thing optimized too.
Yep. Well, I mean, full disclosure, there's a lot of reasons why, I'm a fan of Brady's. We structured our business to be accommodating in that way to help people become data sovereign, to have more control over their where their content goes, to have more insight into their ROI and sales, mainly because of some of those options that you were talking about and how they were able to cost too much and be too, they don't really give you the bang for your buck that everybody else gets in every other industry. And the more that we can teach people and now provide services that are complementary or more improved than those things, which we now can, the better it's going to be for everyone. The more that we can focus, attention on the local versus like national topics and strategy and ad buys and sales techniques, super important. A lot of people work you over.
Yeah, you get started to get your website set up, but you need somebody to get your message out there. And you guys are a great way to get the message out there. Obviously there's plenty of PR things, but you guys are one.
Those are you. And so like the combination of that and like a full stack marketing team capability and a media outlet that can be trustworthy and, tap into a lot of these audiences you're looking for. And it also is capable in terms of advertising and publishing, capabilities. That's maybe what you're looking for out there. And I know we're being self-aggrandizing by saying that, but that's what you need to look for in options. You really do. They exist. And the more that we push, the more people are like, whoa, this exists. Yeah, it does. It exists in every other field. And if we're a media company, or if Brady has an SEO company who'd like to grow in an efficient manner, he's going to need to be able to do that, or his firm is going to be able to need to accommodate that, just like our media company needs to accommodate that. And we need to be we need to coach people up on how to be data sovereign, how to leverage their kind of tech stack in a more efficient manner, right? And we can help fuel that. So, Brady, tell everybody where they can find you out there in digital land and how they can contact you if they're interested in learning more about Evergreen and SEO.
Yeah, right on. Appreciate that. So evergreenseoservices.com is my website. So you can get to that pretty easily. Evergreen SEO Services, just all one thing. And then LinkedIn is another great place to reach me. If you just look up under Brady Madden or Evergreen SEO on LinkedIn, you should be able to find me there. But those are the best two places to reach out if you got questions or want to work together or anything like that. I'd love to chat. So let me know what questions you got.
Excellent. Aaron, what are our CTAs today? We got a bunch.
What are the CTAs?
Focus on local. If you need to focus on local versus that, let's see. Make sure that you know your lane, which is a common one that we basically uncover on this show.
Have a brand.
Mine is hire a professional, hire the right person for the job. If you don't get the results that you're looking for, then the reason why is because you're not hiring the right person for the job. So that's my CTA. Hire the right person. Stop taking pictures yourself. Hire me. Stop trying to be an SEO.
That's right. Stop working with subpar strategists, right? Stop working with subpar tools.
It's only going to cost you money in the long run. It really is. And that's one of the lessons of my kid. Don't buy cheap. Buy something because you're going to have to buy twice. When you buy cheap, you have to buy twice.
Yeah.
It's the rule with tools. Don't buy cheap tools because you're going to have to buy them twice. Same thing with services.
Yeah.
Brady, you had another one. What was the other CTA you just said?
Man, I lost it.
Yeah, be smart with your budget. There's like watch your vendors. There's basically know your lane. There's
branding. I was saying branding. I was saying have a brand.
Yes, you need to have a brand. It actually does matter. I don't give a crap if you're manufacturer X in wherever. I don't care if you're geneticist X in wherever. I don't care if your niche is, I'm a grower. We don't need to have a brand. What the hell is wrong with you? Yes, you do.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the biggest fault. I think that's the biggest thing that growers in farms in this space have failed on, generally speaking, is branding themselves and leveraging all the revenue streams they could tap into, right? Oh man, I can't, again, there's so many things that they could do to lean into that and with partners and different types of options that are available to you. So folks, you're a business, you're a brand. A business needs to have a brand. Brand needs to have a voice, has to have a tone. It does feel, if people can tap into that, even if you just market to these people because you're B2B, it matters. And so anyhow.
People need a reason to care. People need a reason to care.
They do.
Separate.
And thank you. Exactly. So those are all your CTAs. Brady Madden, thank you so much for being with us today on Some Guys Talking.
And if you have any SEO questions, call Brady. Reach out. You can be simple. No question is too simple. No question is too hard. Reach out.
He's got your back. So, hey, Brady, thank you so much.